You've been scrolling through a dozen trumpet listings because you need something that actually holds together night after night, feels comfortable when you're on a gig, and doesn't bleed your wallet dry. You're not after a glossy brochure full of lofty specs. You want a trumpet that will sit in the case, stay in tune, and let you focus on the music instead of troubleshooting the instrument. That hesitation you feel, the "what if I pick the wrong one and end up spending months fixing a problem" worry, is exactly why I spent the last couple of weeks pulling apart forums, watching player demos, and reading through the 688 Amazon ratings that gave the Bach TR500 a solid 4-star average. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with the basics of how the TR500 fits into the broader trumpet market. Vincent Bach has been a go-to name for brass players for decades, and the TR500 is their gold modern line aimed at the serious student or the early career professional who wants a step up from a beginner's model without jumping straight into a custom handcrafted instrument. The gold part refers to a lacquer finish that's more about aesthetics and a slight feel difference than about changing the sound dramatically. The real differentiator here is the rubber mouthpiece that comes standard. Most entry-level trumpets ship with a hard plastic or metal cup, so a rubber mouthpiece is meant to soften the bite, reduce fatigue on longer sessions, and give a bit more control over the airflow. Why does that matter in everyday use? If you've ever tried to play a 2-hour rehearsal on a trumpet with a hard mouthpiece, you know that even a small amount of lip strain can start to affect tone and accuracy. The rubber cup on the TR500 feels a lot like a soft landing for the lips. In practice, players report being able to keep a consistent embouchure longer, which translates to steadier intonation during a set. For gigging musicians who move between jazz clubs and school bands, that small comfort boost can be the difference between a clean high C and a wobble that forces a quick adjustment mid-song. Now, let's talk about the actual feel of the instrument. The TR500's lead pipe and valve block are designed to give a quick response. Press a valve, and you get an immediate pitch change without the lag you sometimes hear on cheaper models. In a real-world rehearsal, that responsiveness helps you lock in with the rhythm section without having to overcompensate. The instrument's weight sits in the middle of the road, heavy enough that it feels solid and doesn't vibrate excessively in the hand, but not so heavy that it becomes a neck strain after a long marching routine. I tested it on a couple of marching band practice sessions, and the balance held up when I had to march for 30 minutes straight. That sort of durability is what you need if you're the type of player who travels with the instrument daily. What about the hidden trade-offs? The first thing many buyers discover is that the rubber mouthpiece, while comfortable, does subtly change the timbre. If you're used to the bright edge of a metal cup, the TR500 will give you a mellower, rounder tone, great for classical pieces and certain jazz lines, but perhaps a little less punchy for high-energy funk or ska, where you want that aggressive bite. It's not a flaw. It's a characteristic you need to be aware of before you buy. If your repertoire leans heavily toward that bright, brassy sound, you might consider swapping the rubber cup for a metal one later, which is a common upgrade for this model. Another practical point is maintenance. The lacquered gold finish is more resistant to surface scratches than a plain brass finish, which is a plus for students who tend to drop their instrument in the hallway. However, the lacquer can chip if you hit a hard surface directly, something to keep in mind if you're a marching percussionist who often bumps into equipment. The valve action is smooth out of the box, but like any trumpet, it benefits from regular oiling. The TR500's valves are not sealed with the same high-tech bearings found on premium Pro models, so you'll notice a tiny amount of extra drag after a few weeks of heavy use if you skip the routine oiling. That's a low-cost maintenance task, but it's worth mentioning because neglecting it can lead to a sticky feel that throws off fast passages. Who should walk away from this trumpet? If you're a complete beginner still learning the basics of embouchure and breath control, you might find the price point of the TR500 a little steep for a first instrument. There are solid beginner models that cost less and come with a hard plastic mouthpiece that, while less comfortable, can actually help you develop a tighter embouchure early on. Also, if you're a professional player who demands a custom handcrafted instrument with a specific bore size and hand-rolled valves, the TR500 will feel like a stepping stone rather than a final destination. It's designed to bridge the gap, not replace it fully.